Yeah, we'll call the meeting to order with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our clerk is excused this evening, and in her absence, is someone willing to
I
serve?
nominate Treasurer Rice to be the clerk.
Support. Motion by Bill, support by Smith. Are you willing?
That's fine.
Any other nominations or discussion? All in favor of Treasurer Rice serving as clerk this evening, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. That brings us to our agenda.
Roll call.
Approval of agenda? Oh, yes, sorry. I always skip that one. She's gone. Would you do a roll call of the board, please?
Sure. Trustee Thering.
Present.
Clerk Cody is absent, excused. Supervisor Milky,
Here.
brain today. Treasurer Rice, here. Trustee Brown.
Here.
Trustee Bills, here. And Trustee Smith.
Here.
Oh, no. Sorry, my head went to Smitty over there.
Oh.
Sorry. Didn't want to bring that one back.
Thank you.
Yep.
We have an approval agenda in front of us. Just in case you didn't notice, there was an email from our manager suggesting a resolution. If someone would like to take it up, they can make a motion to add that to agenda. Otherwise, we'll approve the agenda as presented.
I'd like to make a motion to add the resolution to the agenda.
Support.
So that's approving the agenda plus that, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any discussion on that? So we would add that as item D then? Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve the agenda with the one addition, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda passes unanimously. That brings us to presentations. We have the Clean Water Revolving Fund and Drinking Water Revolving Fund Project Plan Application Presentation by Director Smith. Do you need any extra introduction at this point?
No, I
Okay.
do not. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for giving us the time tonight to give you an update on our project plans for the drinking water and the Clean Water State Revolving Funds. I'm going to ask Jennifer Graham to come up here with me when we're doing the presentations. We worked on this together. It was a team effort by everybody in the department, but Jennifer and I and Sean McBride over there did a lot of the work on the drinking water side. So to start off, the Township applied for Clean Water State Revolving Funds through a project plan. On the slide presentation is a list of the projects that we applied for funding. We had some wastewater projects, screw pump replacement, sludge storage tank, flow monitoring. We had some collection system improvements, pump station number 5 upgrade, pump station number 4 upgrade, and our request was $5.9 million. So our timeline was we submitted our preliminary engineering report in May of 2023. We received the draft intended use plan and scoring report on August 8th, 2023. And we had the opportunity to look at that, give back feedback, and then the final intended use plan was received on October 4th of just this month. So unfortunately, the township did not receive funding on the clean water side, which is the sanitary sewer side. But we do intend to apply for next year. That actually has already been submitted, our intent for the next round, which would be the 2025 round. And just a little bit of information on the scoring for that. So for the clean water scoring, we scored 45 out of 100 points. And the way that the clean water is scored is it's prioritized for communities who have systems that have some kind of consent order, have maybe some sanitary sewer discharge issues, they have compliance issues. They receive higher points for that. for the clean water for that funding. So the township only scored 45, because obviously you're aware we don't have any of those issues. So we did not receive funding. And then next was the drinking water revolving fund. That was due, or the projects we applied for was Isabella Treatment Plant expansion, a new well and a transmission line, high service pump room expansion, iron removal expansion. We also did a water main extension at Pickard and Somerton to Broadway. It would loop a system over in that area. And we also applied for lead service line replacement. Our ask on that was $10,958,000. So we received our intended final use plan and scoring report on October 16th of 2023, and we were funded for $10,958,000, 100% grant.
Oh, my.
Wow.
So, yeah, we're pretty happy about it. So, we
Yeah.
More
received,
than pretty happy.
Yeah, we're happy.
That's a lot of words exchanged.
so much so we had to
Yeah.
look at the list. I don't know how many times. Are we reading this right? So we received 90 out of 100 points. That program was scored differently than the clean water. On the drinking water side, they changed their scoring for this go around, and you were recognized and acknowledged for doing things right. We received many of our points for the fact that we do not have any consent orders, we do not have violations. We have all of our plans in that you're required to submit to Eagle on time, and they're approved. So we received many points for that. Our wellhead protection was up to date, we follow it. All of those things helped us receive the 90 points out of 100. So we'll just say it again.
So we'll say it again too.
We were so much in shock to the point where Kim and I both went down to the Eagle public hearing.
We were the only people
We were the only
present,
people.
other than the people from Eagle. You know, we
Yeah.
were like, oh, it's nice to see you guys. So just a few of our next steps that the board will be seeing that will start happening as this rolls out. The first thing will be an approval of a survey contract with Gordy Frazier. We'd like to have that in front of you in November so we can start survey work before the snow starts, because after that then we'd be pushing that into the spring, and there are timelines on when things have to be turned in, so the sooner we can start at least the survey work, the better off we will be for the design process. We will be receiving a grant agreement from the state of Michigan. We will probably receive two, one for $10,514,266, and the one for $470. Whoops. So once we receive that, that will be coming before the board for, I assume it will get approved, but.
I would have to assume.
And then we will have an approval of a design contract and construction observation. You've seen those from Gordy Frazier before, it'd be very similar. And we're hoping to have that to you in January. And then we will go out for bids. Once the designs are done, we'll solicit bids. Then we'll do approval of construction contracts. And I just wanted to point out, when you get federal funding, you do have to abide by Davis-Bacon as well as Build America, BABA. So that's just some information as we're going through this. We will be complying with all of that because we are required to, because this is federal funding. So I'd like to thank the Township Board because you guys have always been very supportive of the water and sewer systems, making sure we have the tools and the materials and the personnel that we need to run those systems and provide good service to the residents of the township. So we thank you for that. I know we don't say that a lot, but we do. We appreciate that. It makes our jobs easier. And then I'd like to thank the Public Service Department, everybody on the team in the Public Service Department. Without Sean McBride John Bebo, who couldn't be here tonight, Mike Deering, who couldn't be here tonight, and all of the people that work in the department, we wouldn't be getting this funding because they do such a good job and really try to do the best and provide good service for everyone. So, can't say enough. We really appreciate having them and them doing a good job. Since you're here, Sean, thank you very much. And then I'd like to thank Jennifer Graham with Gordy Frazier and the team there. We've worked with them for 35 years. We have a great system, and they've helped us get there. And she was, she wrote the report, and we submitted, and we got the funding. So, thank you. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to all the public service employees and you,
yeah.
Director Smith, because you're amazing to get. I mean, just we were featured, in the Township magazine for our systems, and you know what? It's amazing how good a job you guys do.
Right.
Doesn't
Thank you.
happen by accident. It happens
On purpose.
purposefully.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Quality people bring quality product.
And the support of the board is instrumental in that too, so, thank you.
Take this time to
Outstanding.
celebrate. I'm sure you have.
Yeah. It's
We'll
been
wait
really
till
hard
it's
to
done.
keep this kind of quiet until we know for sure. Because we had a chance to look at the list, the draft list, and we were both, all of us were like, okay. And then you have to wait for you to go through the whole process. And then when the final list came out, we were like, all right. And then we got an email, okay. Are you going to move forward with these projects? Yes, we are. So,
Would you be willing to send that presentation to the board, please?
sure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, and if I can, just quick,
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, because I work with a lot of other clients, but I am extremely privileged to be part of this project. In my lifetime, it's probably going to be the largest grant I can't even surmount and compare it to anything, but I can't think of a community that deserves it anymore because of such the exemplary job that they do. Usually grants are given to communities that struggle financially, have compliance issues, and so again, I've been very honored to be part of this, and I'm so proud that you guys received this and very much deserve it. And it was wonderful for us to tell Eagle staff, that same thing of their scoring definitely reflected that, and it's truly, truly appreciated in this community. So, thank you again.
Thank you,
Thank
Jen.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 5B on our agenda, presentations. This is the recommended budget, fiscal year 2024. I guess I'll give you the floor.
Thank you, and I'm not sure how I'm supposed to follow that.
Should we just adjourn from
Just
here?
drop the mic in there.
Hey, that would be a good way to talk. Actually, no, probably not.
We could just end the meeting right now
Yeah.
and just on a good note.
Support.
I think you can advance slides from here.
So, if you would send that down your way.
I think it was one short.
Did you say you think it's one short?
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you.
It was worth the drive, wasn't it?
Was for us.
Well, when I walked in, I said, "Oh, Jennifer, you're here. It must be important." She goes, "It is." But
So-
I had no idea why.
The next item on the agenda is, and this will be, I hope, relatively brief. This is the initial introduction of the recommended manager's 2024 budget. I'm just going to go over some things at a high level. What I passed out to you is what I call the short version. It has some documents that I'm gonna be referring to. This is mostly about, I think, at this point, listening. We'll get into discussion probably at a later date. There are 8 funds that you'll be looking to adopt a budget for at the end of the day, so to speak: the general fund, the fire fund, special assessment, EDA operating, East DDA operating, West DDA operating, a 2% grant fund, and then the sewer and water fund. You will be getting a full budget book tabbed and in a binder as soon as we get that from the printer. I will also be giving you an electronic copy of that same document, and you can expect to get that tomorrow, and that has all the line item detail. I received requests from all the departments, and this is in terms of developing this budget. Requests come in from the departments over the year and over time in a variety of venues. I'm gaining information from the board. We have our policy ends document. The focus of this recommendation is to advance the ends that are articulated in your document, in the policy document. Formally, there's a couple of procedural steps that you can expect in the next couple months. There'll be a public hearing that will be held on November 29th. Board actions required to set that. You'll be looking at that on November 8th. We anticipate holding the public hearing at a regular board meeting on the 29th of November. And then the budget technically needs to be adopted by the end of the day on 12/31. If prior timelines hold, I would expect that we'd be approving this during your December 13th meeting. That's your only meeting in December, although myself and the staff, hold as many study sessions as you would like between now and the 31st of December. Just go over a couple highlights. The operating millage for the general fund remains at 1 mil. It's been there for a number of years. You'll see in the revenue section of the budget, as I talked about a couple weeks ago, state grant recognition of $930,000 for the ARPA funds. And as we talked about, there's no associated expenses that are claiming that money other than the traditional normal expenses. And what we anticipate doing is sometime either during this year, by the end of the year anyways, is reserving a portion of the fund balance. I don't know if you guys recall that discussion for $930,000. Total appropriation in the general fund of $3.388 million. Our largest revenue source is state shared revenue. We're projecting that to be $1.28 million for this year, or for 24. That has begun to flatten out and even drop a little bit compared to, say, FY '22, and we're anticipating a little drop in FY '23 as well, which you'd see in a budget amendment later this year. But we had seen some spikes in state share revenue starting in '21, and those have begun to level out a bit. There are no staffing level changes recommended in this budget. The employees continue to contribute to our benefit programs, medical at 10%, and by the third year of that contract, which would be, I think, 2024 at this point, maybe 25, that'll be up to 12%, but we are continuing to make some gains in that front. The healthcare, dental, and vision expenses have gone up, continue to go up. They're projected to increase 9% for the healthcare and then 5% respectively for both the dental and the vision. Annual cleanup day we have funded again for 2024. The election department, as you might expect, has a significantly higher recommended budget than prior years, $64,000 to address and effectuate the new election laws and regulations that are going to be, we're going to be implementing those next year during the general election. We have funds budgeted in the general fund of $955,000 for continued various sidewalk projects around town. They're the normal suspects that we hear about. Broomfield, trying to do something with Broomfield, Bluegrass, and some others around town. There's a contribution to the road commission of about $370,000. Gravel roads as usual, probably 4 to 5 miles of those, brine contracts, and then we also have 70,000 earmarked for turning Lincoln Road south of Broomfield down to Deerfield, basically rehabilitating that road, if you will, turning it into a Class A road with some 4-foot shoulders. Those are a little narrower than what we currently have down Lincoln to Broomfield, but they're considerably wider than what you see in other places around town. The 270 some that we have allocated assumes receipt of a 2% grant request that we made for the fall. If that's awarded, then we'd have tribal money, township money, and road commission money for that road. If it's not awarded, then we'll figure out if we want to do the project, and if so, how we want to fund that. The FY24 general fund year in balance, and this is adjusted for ARPA, is projected at $5.3 million, or 156% of recommended appropriations. So that's the general fund. The fire fund, no change in millage, 2.25 mills. Continue to receive financial support from both the east and the west DDA. It's about 80 and 60,000 respectively. The fire protection service contract we have with Mount Pleasant, we have budgeted at $871,000. That's a 5% increase from FY23. I will note that that fire service contract expires at the end of this year, end of FY23, and myself and the city manager are in discussions. They are also in the middle of a fire service study. The existing contract allows for extensions up to 5 years at a time. So we'll be taking advantage of that at a minimum, and we haven't landed quite on a number yet for the 24, so we built in a 5% increase from 2023. The total recommended appropriation in the fire fund is $883,000, almost exclusively on the fire service contract we have with the city. We have a special assessment fund that you're aware of. A couple of years ago, we began drawing that down as citizens from the McGurk, what we call the McGurk and Carriage Lane road neighborhood areas, we fronted, if you will, or cash flowed is a better way to put it, the work to have those road networks done. That drew down the fund balance, is beginning to build back up again as all of our paving special assessment payments come in. The idea is that fund balance builds up. It allows for cash financing from a cash flow perspective, work in a neighborhood if we're approached by residents that want to initiate a citizen-initiated special assessment. We have $310,000 we're projecting at year end in that fund that would be available if somebody did come forward with a request to have a special assessment. Yes, they are paying for it, but somebody has to pay the contractor when the work's done up front, and many of these special assessments are 5, 7, 10 years in length. The EDA operating fund and the West EDA operating fund were both approved by the EDA board earlier this month with recommendations for Board of Trustee approval. In the East EDA fund, the appropriation is a little over $2 million. All the programs that I call operational in nature, lawn mowing of the curb lawns, irrigation, landscape maintenance, holiday lighting, snow plowing, all those kind of things are funded as they have been in the past. We are continuing budgeting for the grant program that we started last year in both funds. We do have money budgeted, $10,000 in this fund and the West EDA. I'm not sure if it's West or not, but anyways, $10,000 budgeted to replace and update the banners that are at that you see at 127 and Pickard Road. We update those every once in a while. We also, in the EDA fund, have earmarked $450,000 for the reconstruction of the underground irrigation system along Pickard Road, north and south sides of Pickard Road, that was taken out when they redid the road. We also have, and this is new, funding in the amount of $25,000 for some tree trimming and removal of dead trees along Pickard Road, and we do, Consumers Energy has a grant program for tree removal that we hope to secure some money through that. And we are aware of the, we're requiring lower signs in the East EDA area. We also want trees. The trees grow up, they cover the signs, so we got to manage that a little bit. There is also a little over $500,000 budgeted for potential land assembly. Whether or not all that gets spent this year or not, I'd be surprised, but we are, as you may have noticed, we've begun to kind of dip our toes a bit into acquiring land. The EDA has. They bought the parcel over on Pickard and something where Pump Station 1 is, and we relocated Pump Station 1 and took down that building, and we're going to be marketing that soon. We're dealing with some easements that we need to have in place for whoever might buy that property. There's also money for that same lot. There's an old, taller, ugly sign on that lot. Money to remove that. There was a grant that you were aware of that we were awarded $45,000, rural development. That mostly is about trying to identify land and what needs to be done to the infrastructure surrounding the land to prepare it for development. That kind of fits in with the idea that if we can begin to control some land, we might be able to jumpstart some development. Site selectors, or they're often looking for land that's owned by the municipality. So that makes their job a little easier, irrespective of what other land use issues they have to go through for their particular development. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. We do have money budgeted for sidewalks in the East DDA on Bud Street from Pickard Street up to Jamison Park, and then also along the east side of South Isabella Road from K Street to Broadway. And then, so we hope to get that work done, and those are all that area is within the boundaries of the East DDA. There's also funding earmarked for some installation of lighting. You may recall we also acquired some property on Jonathan Lane, took down, moved an old house of some sort, kind of cleaned that up, put a sidewalk between through that piece of property to connect two neighborhoods. So we're going to look at trying to provide some lighting along that sidewalk. Net revenue, the net of revenue expenses in the EDA fund for 2024 is a negative $1,400,000. So we're budgeting the use of fund balance. We would still end the year with a projected fund balance of about $485,000. And annually, we have new revenue coming into that fund north of $500,000. So even if we did all this work, the fund balance is quite a bit smaller than it has been in the last couple of years, but we do have pretty steady revenue coming into that fund. The West DDA, that's appropriations recommended at $369,000, some change, also offering a grant program similar to what I talked about on the east side. We do have some money, $50,000 to begin to develop and maybe implement a bit of it if we can. A plan for a bit of street lighting and some streetscaping improvements along M20. We put in the sidewalks and want to continue to make that attractive, user-friendly. We're also proposing in the West DDA fund, or the East DDA board has approved, $175,000 allocation to extend the sidewalk that ends at Remus and Bradley right now and extend that north to the middle school. That is within the West DDA boundaries. And we've had a lot of positive comments, by the way, about the sidewalks on Pickard, and we've also had comments about trying to make a turn north and at least get up to the middle school, and then at that point you're in the city limits, so we can't do much more at that point. Fiscal year 2024 year-end projected in the West DDA fund is a little over $1.2 million. The sewer fund, and we're getting approaching the end. There's two more funds I want to talk about: the sewer fund and then the water fund. First, the sewer fund. I will let you know that the budget's been reviewed by staff at UFS. That's the consulting company that we use to help us manage the finances of the system. They do cost of service studies for us. The most recent one was 21, I want to say. It might have been 20, but I think it's 21. And they look at the budget from the perspective of those, I call them bogeys, those things that we want to try to achieve from a financial perspective. What's the cash on hand look like? How's operating income doing? Debt service ratios, those kind of things that we need to keep an eye on. The total appropriation in the sewer fund is $4.7 million. We are recommending a rate increase on the usage rate, that's the quarterly bill, of 8.5%. That's to fund the CIP that we have proposed, plus the inflation that we've all been experiencing. And so I know that'll get some discussion. The capital maintenance projects that we're including in this budget are some of your typical ones. We're always working on manholes, doing the work on those. We do a dozen or so of those every year. Lift station maintenance repairs, we do some level of maintenance on those every year. We are looking to replace the overhead door on the, I'll call it a pole, I don't know what to call the building, but it's in the shop, that site, and that overhead door we're looking to replace this year. What I'd consider new capital projects, we're looking to replace all the security cameras at facilities across the entire system, both water and wastewater. You'll see the same entry in the sewer fund. We need and want cameras, and to some degree have cameras, but they need to be updated at the lift stations, all our buildings, at the water towers, all those kind of things. Also have in the budget a little over $600,000 for Pump Station 5 upgrades, fire screening components at the plant, $475,000, and some upgrades to Pump Station 2 that are being carried over from 2023. There is a recommendation for a reclassification of a position that's paid out of the sewer fund. It's the we have several wastewater treatment operators in the fund, and one of those individuals retired earlier this year. That position has not yet been filled, and I'd ask the department to take a look at their staffing levels, their needs. Looking forward, do we have the right complement of staff? And it's being recommended that we reclassify that operator position into assistant superintendent position over in the sewer fund, reporting to the superintendent, who's Mike Deering. And there's several reasons for that. I do want to emphasize that this is a reclassification that comes along with an upgrade in the position. It is not a change from a net body count, if you will. Still same number of people, but we think by upgrading this one position, giving Mike a little bit more managerial support, that without changing the net staffing levels, that we'll be in a better position than we are today. Also, as you all know, whether some of us look at or not, many of the folks that have been working in the water and the wastewater system are starting to approach retirement, and so it would make sense for us to add and do other things with staffing so that when those days come, we're not caught completely flat-footed. Our system is required to have a license level of a Class B, as in boy, operator. Mike, in fact, our current superintendent, is Class A. Operators are required to have Class D licenses from the state. So when they come in, that's a minimum qualification that you'd see on a job description. through their own volition and a little bit of incentive from the township as the employer. Many of our employees over there over the years have obtained licensing that is greater than what's required for the position. We have premium pay opportunities and labor agreements to kind of incentivize them to get that. You know, say what you want, but I would not suggest that using terms like over-licensed make much sense. And
Yeah, right.
so by reclassifying this position, we're going to have it require, it's part of the job description, a Class B as in boy licensing that would report to the Class A superintendent. And then we have, I think, much more flexibility to address whatever may come down the road. We also think that this staffing model will help a lot of what we, I don't know if help's the right word, but you know, we put a lot of stress on our employees. You know, we don't have a lot. People need to go on vacation. I want them to go on vacation. They get sick. We need to, it's 24/7 operation. We need to be able to rotate that. And this also we feel will give us flexibility to accomplish that better than we're doing right now. Projected year-end net assets at the end of the fiscal year, almost $6 million in the fund. On the water fund, again, that budget's been reviewed by staff at UFS. This appropriation budget is $4.7 million. The rate increase being recommended here is 6.5%. And that again is to pay for the capital programs we want in here, the inflationary increases. This budget was being developed knowing that we had applied for some funding at the state level, but not knowing whether it would be awarded at all, let alone whether it's in the form of grants or not. So the current water budget is likely to have some amendments to it based on some of the information you heard earlier tonight. Looking to power wash all the water tanks, water towers, again sharing the cost of the overhead door at the shop. Also, you know, their share of security cameras across the water facilities. There is $2.3 million in the budget for the transmission main and the new well. That was also referenced in the project plan that we were awarded money for. And $175,000 also in the budget for iron removal filters and air scouring and backwash equipment at the Mission Road treatment plant. In this operation, we are recommending, in this case, the addition, a net addition of one staff person to this fund and this operation. And that would be an assistant water operator. Sean McBride, who was here earlier today, is what we call the chief water operator. And we have one assistant operator position on our books right now, and we're looking to add to that complement. Little bit of the nitty-gritty detail on the water side. The township's required to employ a water operator with the licensing level of D2. Our current water operator is, again, licensed above that in some aspects, has an S1, D1 level. Existing assistant water operators are licensed at a DC D3 S2. And by adding this position, which we would have required at a level of D3 S3, we're trying to accomplish the same thing that I described on the water side that I was talking about a few minutes ago on the accomplishing on the water side what I was talking about a few minutes ago on the sewer side. Same type of coverage issues that we run into. We are projecting FY24 year-end net assets of a little over $760 million. As it relates to the fees, I did mention the water and the sewer. There are many other fees in the budget. They're in your packet that is in front of you tonight. It's redlined and crossed through, so you'll be able to see what they currently are, what the recommendations are. Some fees are being recommended to have no changes. Some are actually going down, and others are going up. There's no change in the fees on the building permit side that are being recommended. We are recommending some new escrow account fees, if you will, to make sure that we have money on hand to pay for the things necessary to facilitate shepherding through the land use process. And we have several of those on the books now. We're adding a couple new escrow requirements for different types of applications. The rental certification and inspection fees are being recommended to increase a bit. Park pavilion, hall rental rate fees are recommended to be increased. And I mentioned the water and sewer fees. When you get your other budget book, or your full budget book, the bound or binder, you'll see a tab that's labeled other information. That's what's up on your screen now, and it's also in your packet. Just want to run through that a little bit because this is really the 10,000 foot level picture of the township finances. Up on the screen right now is, can you advance this one? Is a 10-year graph of how taxable values have increased over the years. Bit flat 8 years ago or so, began to increase a little bit, and then, as you might expect in the more recent, with the high inflation, we have been having our taxable value, which is the value that drives the tax bills, going up by the capped amount under Proposal A of 5%. That's for existing buildings. You can see over 5% to the extent we have new development going on, those kind of things. So there's a graph there for you to look at. State shared revenue, you saw that really jump up right around COVID, immediately after COVID, and that's when nobody really knew what was going on with the economy. Everybody thought it might just crash and burn. It ended up not, but it has continued to struggle, which is, I think, primarily the reason why you see the state shared revenue beginning to drop and, as I mentioned earlier, level off a little bit. That's our share of the state sales tax. There's a constitutional component which the legislature cannot mess with. There's also what I call the non-constitutional or the appropriated revenue sharing amount, which is subject to legislative discretion. And for those of you that were in the business 10 years ago or more, 2008, and even before that, the state really chopped up revenue sharing for local units of government in an attempt to address their own financing needs. And however you want to consider that, you know, as you move away farther and farther in time, you forget what it used to be, but the percentage of state shared revenue going to local governments used to be considerably higher than it is today. We're never going to get back to those levels without something dramatic happening, and we'll always be at the risk of whims of the legislature to balance their budget by taking money away from local units of government. You've seen this before in your audit presentations. It's the fund balance, the general fund balance. The bars are the nominal dollar levels, and you've seen those increasing, beginning to flatten out a little bit in the $200 to $300, 200% to 300% of expenditure range. I think the blue line is a little bit more instructive because that displays the fund balance as a percent of operating income. The FY24 recommended budget is approximately 160% of annual expenses. That basically tells you is that you could operate more or less normally for a year and a half from just your savings, if you will. The next one you won't be able to really see. I don't know if there's a way to make that bigger. The big takeaway, and you'll see it in your packet and in your book, is the very bottom line of percentages in the green bar at the bottom. And that is the projected fund balance as a percent of operating expenses as you move out. 2023, we're projecting year end around 260%, and then in pretty much using the status quo of operations based on the assumptions on your bottom left, we would be down to 69% of operating expenses based on this projection. We are a couple key assumptions that we've changed from prior years. Taxable value increases. Assumption used in this document is 4% for the next couple of years, and then it drops down to 2% for the years after that. Salary and wages, 5% increases for 25 and 26, dropping down to 3% in the out years, similar with benefits. So that is of interest, and what it kind of says is that in the short term and certainly in the intermediate term, having fund balance is will be continuing to have fund balance to address the unexpected. And I think we should all learn to expect the unexpected more than we learn to expect the expected. If that made any sense. And I think it kind of does, but similar picture for the fire fund, East and West DDA fund. We have some long-term projections there. What we're doing in the fire fund is building up fund balance so that we can replace the fire truck that we buy every 25 years or so, and that we bought a couple years ago now at this point. And you know, the east and the west EDA, you know, they capture tax increments respectively, as long as those districts remain in place and the tax sharing agreements remain in place. Both those funds receive a healthy dose of cash each year, and we're then able to use that for improvements in each of the respective districts, whether it's traditional pure infrastructure, roads, sewer, water piping, or some more things that are more pleasing to the eye and making it attractive and safe for people to shop and hang out in those areas. Decorative lighting along Pickard is an example of the money used before, the holiday lighting. It all looks very nice, and I think over the next several years we could see something different anyways than we're seeing on M20 right through here. The west DDA boundary goes from Bradley Street, at least as it relates to Remus Road, from Bradley Street out to Meridian, at least on the south side of M20. I don't recall if it's also on the north side or not, but your personnel cost summary will be in your budget book. It's in your, I call this the short version, for those that don't need to mess with all the dollars and cents. Your personnel cost summary sheets, like kind of broken down by department or function, if you will. The elected officials, manager, financial services, accounting, assessing, job positions described, FTE equivalents, salary, wages, benefits, and then total compensation. And then lastly is the recommended fee schedule, and as I indicated, you'll see blue for additions and strike-throughs for the existing. Also, just so you know, and it ends up in the budget book, but there's a draft appropriation resolution in front of you here, and a draft notice of public hearing that would end up being published in the paper on November 12th, if the board acts on the 8th to set that public hearing for that date. So that is what I have in terms of agenda item 5B. And I know that the board will want to have a discussion with the administration over the next several weeks. We're here whenever you want to be here. If things proceed in a similar manner as they have in the last couple, and there's no reason that it needs to or necessarily doesn't need to, but you all are pretty experienced and I think seasoned in the finances and the budgeting of the township. What we're doing here is in the main continuing with the programs and projects that we've been doing the last several years, expanding those types of things throughout the township. There are no new brand new things like let's stand up a police department or let's stand up a fire department. Nothing like this in here. You get your monitoring reports throughout the year, so you have several budget amendments throughout the year. So from my perspective, this is a pretty educated board. And I think because of that, in the last couple of years, we've been able to handle the budget discussion during your regular board meetings, either by managing the agenda or maybe starting them an hour or so earlier than typical. But it'll be up to the board to say how you want to approach getting comfortable enough with the budget recommendation so that whatever comes out of the discussions, we're ready to have a vote in December. Well, thank you, and I'll turn it back to you, Supervisor.
So with that then, let me ask this board if you have concerns or thoughts on opportunities for us to each digest this, get our questions answered, ask questions of it, make potential changes. Do we all feel like November 12th is enough time for you to get in and ask questions if you need to, prepare for discussion? And then at that point, I'm making a suggestion here, I guess. At that point, if we need additional time together, we could look at scheduling a special meeting if we needed. Is that reasonable?
Very reasonable for me.
I can, yes.
Trustee
Yep.
Bills?
Yep.
Did you have something else? I'm sorry.
I just had a question for the manager.
Okay, have at it.
I just had a question about that Vector truck expense, and I didn't know if that's something that was an add-on or if it broke or what happened.
It was not part of the original purchase.
I figured
It's an
that.
option. It did not break.
Yeah.
What this attachment does is allows for televising and cleaning at the same time.
Nice. I figured as much, but, you know, I didn't want Trustee Brown to get upset or anything. So,
It looked like a bonus to me, so I was
yeah, it
good with
looks like a bonus.
All right, so with that, we'll do our best to prepare for the 12th.
The 12th of what?
Isn't that our meeting, the 12th, November?
There's November 8th.
My apologies. I meant the 8th. The first,
In November.
first board meeting.
Our board meetings are November 8th.
I don't
and
know.
And then
then
the 12th is the paper.
Paper.
And then November 29th.
The 8th, my apologies.
Yeah.
And then we have one board meeting in December, December 12th.
12th.
So 2 in November, 1 in December. And as I said, we can meet in between those dates. We can meet before regular board meetings. You know, if you want to have special meetings, you can.
Are we scheduled for a discussion on the 8th at the regular meeting, or to ask questions?
It needs to be on the agenda.
It will be.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I need to know. That's where I'd put it.
So I would ask.
And there'll be time carved out for the November 29th.
Sure, yeah.
So, just based on past years, you know, I go through and I start highlighting questions I might have or concerns or whatever they may be. Not that we can't debate things outside of the public meeting, obviously, but if you have questions, I'm curious too, because I think we learn from each other, and you'll catch things that I don't, and vice versa. So if you choose to share those, we just don't want to get into a deliberation.
Yep.
You mean via email? Share the
Sure, that
questions?
you could say, you asked a question, here was the answer, just don't give your opinion on that, right? Just
Just the
state
facts.
facts, just the facts.
Just the facts.
You want to avoid debate, that's all.
And also, I would encourage you to reach out to me directly,
Right.
one-on-one, either email or phone or meeting. I will say, and it helps everybody, that if I'm addressing a budget issue one-on-one, that I'll follow that up in writing, even if we had an in-person meeting, so that there's clarity, and that also that allows me to share that information with the rest of the board, which will help everybody.
Mm-hmm,
Perfect.
thanks.
Yeah, that's worked perfect before. That's a great system.
Yeah.
We all good?
Yes?
Good.
Thank you for that. That brings us to item 7 on the agenda, public comment. Public comment is restricted to 3 minutes regarding items on this agenda. Note, if you choose to address the public, please state your name and address for the record.
There's nobody online.
Seeing that nobody's online, we'll open up public comment at 8:05 p.m. And the floor is open if you choose. I didn't mean to pressure you.
Oh,
Just-
no.
Okay.
Like, proud of Exeter. Lori Rogers, 2248 Cornerstone Drive. Interested in getting involved in helping, and I don't know where it fits. So I've been to the EDA meeting, the Planning Commission meeting, and here I am. So that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Thanks, Laura.
Are you sticking around?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm on the meeting.
Yeah.
You never know. I would anticipate that we're done by 9, but I can't say that for sure. Okay. You just don't know. Anybody else to come forward? Seeing no one else coming forward, we'll close public comment at 8:06 p.m. Let's see, that brings us to report boards and comments. Current list of boards and commissions. We have a few applicants in there. You've looked at those. We have a Construction Board of Appeals. All 3 seats are up at the end of this year. We have 1 applicant so far. Trying to remember what else was in there. I'm going from memory. My apologies. I shouldn't do that. We have the dog park, of which currently Mr. Dinsey and our manager sit on. Mr. Dinsey has reapplied. That term is up at the end of this year. We have the Aquatic Authority, of which we have 2 that we appoint to that board. If you remember, there's 2 from, I think, the city, 2 from the Department of Education, Mount Pleasant District, 2 from us, and then 2 at large that the Water Authority nominates or appoints.
I'd like to make a motion if you don't mind me cutting in.
I don't mind you cutting in.
Okay. Move to appoint John Dents for another term, beginning January 1st, 2024, and ending 12/31/2025, for the Dog Park Board, Advisory Board.
Definitely support that.
So we have a motion by Bill, support by Brown. Comments? I'll just add that I've served with John in various capacities, Planning Commission, et cetera. I believe he's been on the Dog Park Board, Advisory Board, since the beginning. And he was instrumental, one of the people that really led the charge in getting that park come to reality as well, so I'm glad that he's willing to serve in that capacity. Anything else? Okay, all in favor of the motion to appoint Mr. Dinsey to the Dog Park Advisory Board, let's see, term ending 12/31/2025, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Appointed unanimously. Thank you, Trustee Bills.
Yes, sir.
Are we good to move on?
I just had a question
Sure.
because I'm not seeing where the Construction Board of Appeals has an opening, is that right?
They don't until the end of the year. I think
Oh.
there's 3
Okay,
3 spots that all end together at the end of this year.
the end of this year, oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's my memories.
Mm-hmm.
Just
And it's a
couldn't
2-year.
find it.
And it's a 2-year term.
Yes, and so far we have 1 applicant for
and-
that.
Yeah, so I'd like to move to appoint that guy. He looks qualified. Okay. So I'd like to move to appoint William S. Gallagher to the Construction Board of Appeals for a 2-year term, beginning January 1st, 2024, and ending December 31st, 2025.
Support.
We have a motion by Bill, support by Smith. I'll just add, I do know Bill through church. We've known him for many years. I know him as an architect, stand-up guy. I'm excited he applied.
Yeah, me too. That looks like a really nice resume.
Any other comments? We have a motion to appoint Mr. Gallagher.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gallagher. I'm sorry.
I think I said it wrong once too. I call him Bill.
Okay.
Motion to appoint Bill, Mr. Gallagher, to the Construction Board of Appeals, term ending 12/31/2025. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Appointed unanimously. I'll ask the question again. Are we good?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on then. Sure.
Just wanted to remind the board that the Mid-Michigan Aquatic Authority, the township's representative, term expires at the end of this year as well. So keep that in mind when you do have applications in your packet.
I see that, yeah. I didn't want to crowd the whole situation with nominations, you know.
Come on, go all three.
Don't be shy.
Okay, let me get to the page. I would get that done. This is not a long meeting, so it's a good time to do it. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, I would like to, nominate, I make a motion to nominate Stan Shingles to the Mid-Michigan Aquatic Recreational Authority for a term beginning January 1st, 2024, and I'm just looking here.
26.
26.
12, yep.
Okay, 12/31/26.
Support.
3-year term.
Motion by Bills, support by Brown. Get any comments, discussion?
First-class individual, Stan
Yeah.
Giles.
Yep.
He's the right person for that board, and
Perfect
I was
person
real
for
glad
that
he was willing to serve from the get-go.
Yeah.
Also serves on our planning commission. Any
Gives
other
great reports, too.
Yeah. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion to appoint Mr. Shingles to the Aquatic Authority, term ending 12/31/2026?
Aye.
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 Sorry. Opposed, same sign. I'm so worried about getting that date out right. Mr. Shingles has been appointed. Now I'm going to move on unless there's objection. That brings us to item 9B, October monthly activity report, which was emailed separately. I believe it was on Monday, maybe it was Friday. You all had a chance to see that.
I didn't have a chance.
Anything?
No.
Nope.
With that, item 9C, Planning Commission, EDA, and ZBA updates by our Community and Economic Development Director, Mr. Nanny. You have the floor.
Thank you. Our boards and commission, our planning commission, our EDA board, we're mostly handling kind of almost housekeeping items this month. We had our planning commission met on the 17th. They had two items related to site plan applications, kind of housekeeping items related to previous site plan applications. In one case, for Michael Engineering Project, this is a big addition to their facility over in the Enterprise Industrial Park. After they received approval, they decided that they needed to make some changes to their site design, parking and some trash enclosures, some other details that they didn't feel were quite what they wanted based on plans that they had originally prepared and we approved. Most of those changes we were able to handle administratively through the zoning ordinance. The zoning administrator has authority to look at incidental changes related to construction. But one of those was not, and that is landscaping issues that they identified. There was some underground infrastructure that was not identified by the engineer on the approved final site plan. It was identified after the fact, and that affected where they could put landscaping, where they couldn't, based on our ordinance. So they had to come back to the Plan Commission for an amendment to the landscaping plan element of their project. That part those changes cannot be approved administratively. Plan Commission did review those, and they didn't approve the changes, and that project is moving forward. The other item that was kind of a housekeeping item was new for the Planning Commission. Our ordinance allows the Planning Commission to if they choose, at their discretion, to grant the ability for a developer to do some limited site grading without a final site plan approval. Preliminary site plan has to be approved, but the final is not yet done. In this case, it was a small project, relatively small, a project on Remus Road, the building addition. That project did receive preliminary site plan approval. The contractor wanted to do some initial site grading, also wanted to remove some of the trees that were planned to be removed that were not required landscaping trees. As I said, the ordinance gives the planning commission the ability to approve that incidental site grading, so that had to come back to them. They did take that action. The grading work has actually already been done now. And that we now have a final site plan in for review, so that'll be on their agenda for November for that project. The EDA board also met on the 17th. They approved their fiscal year 2024 budgets, the materials you received tonight, and made a recommendation as well for those to you for final action. They also took the same action, approving final amendments to the fiscal year 2023 budget. These are kind of housekeeping amendments we do every year, and also recommend those to you for final action. So you'll be seeing those later in the calendar year as part of the budget process. As part of that meeting, we did give them word. Unfortunately, our sidewalk snow plowing contractor, this is Doug Small Engine Repair over on Pickard Road, they have decided not to continue their services beyond the end of the calendar year. It's basically an equipment issue. Their equipment is older, and they've decided not to continue those services. So we're working on a request for bids and getting that out to bring that to the EDA board for November for a new company to do that sidewalk snow plowing work. Zoning Board of Appeals did not meet in October, but we do have a meeting scheduled for November. It will be November 1st. There are no applications. This will be also kind of a housekeeping meeting. They have an obligation, in addition to approving calendars, both those other boards also approve their calendars for 2024. In addition to approving the calendar for 24, the Zoning Board of Appeals has an obligation to provide a report on their activities to the Planning Commission, just as the Planning Commission does to you each year. This is per their bylaws. So they'll be taking action on that, and we'll also have a discussion on training as part of that meeting. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do you know when the Sam's Club gas station is going to be done?
I don't know the exact date. I know that they are getting close.
Really?
Yeah, they're getting close.
That's awesome.
It's been many years in the making.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I drove down Pickard today just to check it out, and sidewalks, the whole south side looks fantastic, I think. The north side, you can see the sidewalks in there. They're beginning to fill in the dirt. I mean, it's really getting close, it looks like to me, but I didn't know if you had an update from MDOT as far as when they expect to be done.
I have not heard any formal updates, but it does appear to me that they're a little ahead of schedule.
That's what I thought too. I mean, they were actually,
before the 15th, and I wouldn't be surprised if they can deliver.
they're starting to finish those last 2 lanes.
For the
They already
holiday
started
season.
working in the city to try to get ahead of next year's
I noticed,
schedule.
no, I thought, I'm like, well, this is in the city. They were cutting, was it sidewalk or something? They were doing
They're
stuff
starting
down.
to work in that so that they can get ahead of schedule because they're ahead on the township portion.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
So we're looking at probably a couple weeks away,
That's
at
awesome.
most maybe.
I like that.
Yeah. I'm sure our community likes that too.
It's always fun going in and out of work and going through the construction area. It's fun.
Oh, yeah.
Any other-
Love big
yeah.
construction.
Well,
Any
it's
other
nice you got Broomfield, you can shoot all the way out now, and now you're gonna have Pickard. It's gonna be clean
Yeah.
on the north and south
That'd
end
be
of town.
nice.
That's gorgeous.
Any other questions or comments for our director?
Thank you for your report,
Thank you
sir.
so much.
Thank you.
You can make Green Tree. It's 8:19.
Yeah, baby.
And there he goes.
I guess I won't even go ahead and try.
You didn't even hesitate, did you?
No.
No. With that, that brings us to item 9D on our agenda, board member reports. Trustee Thering,
Nothing to report, sir.
Treasurer Rice.
You had to think too.
No, I was debating whether I should come back over here.
We had a tax meeting today, so that winter taxes are starting to be prepared for, and so yay.
Seems like we just paid our July taxes.
Yeah, we kinda did.
Well, you know, you had from July 1st to September 14th, so you
Long
could have
time.
just paid them.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Trustee Bills?
While I did attend a county commission meeting, I don't have the notes with me, so I can't help you with that.
Well, maybe next time you can highlight if there's something there.
Right.
Where did they
Just,
hold that meeting, just out of curiosity?
It was at the, right next door. At the
Commission.
Yeah, yep. MTA was at road commission.
Did-
I'm sorry, COG.
Did they?
COG. Last week. I didn't go to that because I just didn't. I wasn't feeling well.
Do you have any recollection if they've talked about where they're going to hold the election? Because the county is coordinating for the other 15 townships, and they were going to do it in the county building, but I don't think they'll be able to do that now.
No.
I did not get a heads up on that yet.
They didn't talk about that in the meeting then.
No.
And from talking with Claudia today, they're gonna be here basically for a long time. It sounds like out at
They don't
Commission.
want to go back to the building,
Yeah.
to the main, no, they don't want to go to the county building anymore. They have too much space and they feel like it's safer, and all the commissioners agree on that, so I don't see them moving it at all, as far as their meetings.
Oh, the commission. Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry,
just, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I thought you were talking the sorry.
I mean, general
You're talking about the
operations.
election.
Well, yeah, with the elections, they were, my understanding is the clerk signed agreements with the other 15 municipalities.
Yep,
And that was supposed to be held in the county building, but that's gonna have to change, obviously. And I think those reports were due
I don't know
today.
if it's gonna have to change. Did Lisa mention that?
Not what the county and the 15 townships were doing.
I'd
don't-
heard they didn't think they'd be back in the building by the primary. I was just
With the asbestos.
Yes, the
Yeah.
asbestos.
Yeah.
And I only asked because I thought if they
I
brought
can
it up,
tell
you
you,
might
okay,
remember.
that was a big issue, and two of the department heads said they were absolutely were not going back in that building until all of the abatement was done. Not testing, because they're doing further testing, but they want abatement before they go back in. So it's a mess. I'm sorry, I forgot about that, but that's a big, huge mess. But some of the departments are just swimming right along, because they had people reach out from everywhere and offer them space. So they have things covered.
Trustee Brown?
Well said, thanks.
And me as well. Our director covers both of us. So with that, we'll move on to item 10 on our agenda, consent
Can
agenda.
I just say one more
Yes,
thing about
absolutely,
the
Trustee Bills.
asbestos, though? Because one person pointed out that even though there was asbestos found, that the anticipated level is lower than the actual, limit, for safe operation. So they just are trying to be over safe.
Probably a
Which
good
is-
idea.
It's best to err on the employee's safety. That's all I had, sorry.
It's okay. Item 10, consent agenda. Happy to entertain any motions.
Motion to move. Motion to approve.
Support.
A motion by Smith, support by Brown. Trustee Theron, you had warrants, I
We
believe?
did. To the best of my ability, I saw no issues.
Good.
Any questions, comments about the motion to approve the consent agenda? Seeing no debate, all in favor to approve consent agenda as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda passes unanimously. That brings us to item 11A, new business. This is certified delinquent special assessments from McGurk subdivision and Carriage Hill Estates. It says Teal. Do one of you want to introduce this?
I was not prepared for that.
Well, I'm happy to. I just didn't want
Okay.
to,
No, go ahead.
I wanted to respect your position.
Oh, thank you. No, go ahead.
So yeah, we are, there's a follow-up to an act, or not an action, but a communication you received from the treasurer at your last meeting. This process is to take delinquent special assessments and put them on the upcoming winter tax bill for collection. And if they're not collected, then they end up getting turned over to the county later in February. But as part of the process, communication needs to be sent to the board, which occurred last meeting, listing the accounts that were past due. Tonight's action is for the board to consider formal action so that they can in fact be placed on the winter tax roll. There's a listing, there's 10 parcels out of maybe a couple, 100 or 150 between the two that are caught up in this, totaling $671,000. So primarily a collection method for outstanding accounts receivables, and we will continue to try to conduct outreach to these individuals, because it would be in all of our interest not to have to put these on the winter tax bill. Sure. We don't need to. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
So right now, to date, none of these people answer your phone calls or letters, or
As of right now, nobody's.
they don't want to
coming
pay
to
for it? So they weren't part of the yes vote, and they said, I don't care, I'm not paying it. Is that what you're trying to?
No, I'm not. I'm not phrasing it like that.
Right, okay.
I don't know what the reason is.
Sure.
They may have just missed it, or maybe they're out of town. Maybe maybe they're having financial problems. I don't know.
Okay.
Any number of reasons people don't pay a particular bill when it's due, but
Okay.
I'll make a motion. All set? To clarify delinquent special assessments from both the McGurk and Carriage Lane paving special assessment rolls in order to place said delinquencies on the winter tax bill as allowed under State of Michigan Act 188 of 1954.
Support.
Motion by Brown, support by Smith. Any other questions, comments?
And just for the public, I don't know, when I was hearing Mark doing the explanation, he said 600,000, stuff like that. So I just want to clarify the total amount is $6,771.95. So, because when he said, I was just like, did I hear that wrong? So I just want to clarify for the public, it's 6,000, not 600,000. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's divided among approximately a dozen or about 10 properties.
10, give or take,
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you. Apologize.
Thank you. I
I'm
was
glad
going to
you
do
caught
that in
that.
discussion, so.
Any other discussion? This is a resolution, so I would ask that we do a roll call of the board, please, to certify the delinquent special assessments for both McGurk and Carriage Lane paving special assessment rolls.
All right. Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Trustee Bills.
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Brown.
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Thering.
Yes.
Supervisor Milky.
Yes.
And Treasurer Rice, yes. All yes.
Resolution passes unanimously. That brings us to new business, 11B, Policy Governance 2.5, Financial Conditions and Activities. Mr. Stuhldreher, would you like to introduce us, please?
Thank you. There's a staff report that begins on page 32 of your agenda packet. This is the quarterly review of Policy 2.5 titled Financial Condition and Activities. The reporting is through the end of September 2023. I will read the very highest level of the policy wording. States, with respect to the actual ongoing financial condition and activities Township management team shall not cause or allow the development of fiscal jeopardy or a material deviation of actual expenditures from board priorities established in your ends policies. Further, without limiting the scope of that statement, there are approximately 10 other sub-policy statements that get into specifics, such as, and I'm not going to read them all, but as a couple of examples, not allowed to use any long-term reserves except for purposes and amounts specifically released by the board. Basically, as saying, let's make sure we maintain and protect our fund balance. Another limitation is that no single unbudgeted emergency purchases greater than $10,000 should occur as it relates to operations outside of water and sewer. For water and sewer, it's $50,000 without board approval. If there is a need to do that, then it's incumbent upon the administration to timely, like immediately, inform the board. There are some things out there that you can't wait for a meeting to be held, and you just got to take care of. And we need to then immediately inform you. There are other pieces to the policy that, for instance, tax payments have to be made. We collect taxes for half a dozen or more taxing entities. We act as agent for them. We collect money from the taxpayers, and then need to distribute it to the taxing units within statutory time frames, usually within 2 weeks after collection. There's others. I'll let you read that. My interpretation of the policy in total is several things. No expenditures will be made that exceeds the budgeted expenses for the current year unless it is emergency purchase as outlined elsewhere in the policy. Tax payments, payroll, payments to other, like the state for withholdings, all are to be made timely and per statute. Accounts payable invoices are a priority of ours, so I interpret this policy to mean that we should be aggressively paying our vendors, not playing some of the games where you delay payment to, let's just get our vendors paid. They need the money. Just like we need the money. Action you took tonight, those are our accounts receivables. I think it's a justifiable and reasonable interpretation. Again, as most of these policies are, they're very well written. They may be long, but all the words are important and chosen specifically. So it's not a wordy document. There's just a lot of things that we need to pay attention to, and they're all very well clearly articulated. So I don't have any confusion in terms of what that means. And if you don't think that I understand what it means, then let me know. We have provided data, some financial reports for all the funds behind the narrative. I would argue that all our expenditures support your global lens policies. We did not incur any new debt during the quarter. We are not using any reserves or fund balances. All payrolls were made timely. If they weren't, you would know about it as soon as I would know about it. And all our tax withholdings to the state and the feds have also been made timely, and you see those when you review your accounts payable over time. So with all that being said, I would argue and suggest that we are in compliance with the policy. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for the manager?
No,
All right. So this was due in October. Was it submitted when it was due?
yeah.
Yes.
The interpretation, always important. Did you look at the manager's interpretation? You heard him describe it. Any issues there?
No.
Not at all.
No issue.
So I'm assuming it's justified. Is there proof provided to explain why the interpretation is reasonable?
Yes.
Yes.
Did it address all of the policy?
Yes.
Yes.
And then looking at the data, do you feel that that shows what managers in compliance?
Yes.
Yes.
I would agree as well. Any comments about the policy itself? I always want to lift up that this is the opportunity if you see a correction or an augmentation that would make it better. This is a good time to indicate so.
No.
I see no issue.
No.
I think this is one of our better areas of our policies that are laid out clearly, as the manager said. It's
Straightforward.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Just a note, I was thinking as we were going through this, we tend to do this kind of on a quarterly basis. Just so you know, the EDA actually reviews their books, both the East and the West, as well as every expenditure every month. So they spend a portion of the meeting every month doing this, looking at that.
We used to as well.
We did.
Yes. And it became redundant.
I'm happy with
And
the
you
quarterly.
review your accounts payables twice a month.
We do, yeah, for as far as what goes out, yep. We just don't spend a lot of time in here going through that. That's done in our packet. All right, so we're moving on.
Yeah.
That brings us to item 11C, delegation to the township manager and management team. Mr. Stuhldreher, do you have anything that you want to add to this or introduce?
Just that this is one of the policies, and there's several in the governance policy document, that pertain to the board as a whole, and this is one of those, as opposed to the policy that we just reviewed that pertain and applied to the administration. This, I'll just read again the high level. The board will instruct the township manager or management team through written policies which prescribe the organizational ends to be achieved. You just looked at those and reviewed those and updated them a few months ago. And describe the organizational situations and actions to be avoided. Those are articulated in the section of your governance policy titled Limitations. So the main point is what you want done and how you want it done. The model Union Township uses is called governance policy, and it emphasizes using policy language and policies to instruct the administration and to govern your own action and how you interplay together. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks. Assuming everybody read through this, as far as compliance, anyone feel that this board is not in compliance?
No.
No.
I don't feel
No.
like we are not in compliance.
Anything we can do to improve processes? I heard no complaints as far as being out of compliance, but we can always be better. Not seeing suggestions. Anything we need to learn, discuss, any modifications?
No.
All good?
Good.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you all. All right, that brings us, and it won't be on our public agenda, we did add the one item, 11D, and this is really for discussion. An email from our manager came out late this afternoon regarding some action the legislature's taking. Felt we should be aware of it. We can choose to do something with that or not. And so with that, you have at your desk
If I can say one thing on
you
this.
absolutely.
I've been reading about this in the MTA correspondence for weeks, and there are a lot of jurisdictions that are very upset about this. And a lot of them have already created resolutions and contacted the Senate, individuals that they need, and representatives, and they have, actually, a few of them said that they were rudely treated by the governor's office, which is interesting. I don't know why, but clearly the Public Service Commission is appointed by the governor and controlled therefore by the governor. So, this is gonna be in my opinion, and I'll try to keep it short, it's a terrible power grab, and we don't want huge wind or solar arrays just hobnob wherever they want around the state. That's all I have to say.
Just since this was just kind of added, could I request that the manager kind of go over the background and this resolution so that the public and everybody kind of has a better understanding?
Great, thank
Good
you.
idea.
Thank you. As everybody knows, there's a push to go green, right? And the state is behind that initiative 100%, and they are trying to and taking action at the state level to advance that policy initiative. And one of the ways to meet those policy goals is to create wind farms and solar array, I'll call them farms, and you have to have energy systems, energy creation systems somewhere, somehow, whether it's coal, gas, or whatever, they need to exist. And what is being proposed with this legislation is that the state of Michigan, through the Michigan Public Service Commission, license and approve and monitor what I call large farm field size energy projects. And from a local government perspective, it's a land use issue for us. We control through our zoning, what kind of buildings get built where, what are setbacks, what are the zoning districts within your community, and at least as it relates to these type of structures, all that would be taken away from Board of Trustees, local planning commissions, and it would rest with the Public Services Commission. I look at it as I have nothing to say one way or the other regarding the policy of advancing greener energy. But I do think the boards ought to carefully consider losing the local control aspect. It's nothing unique to one political party or another. Back when Governor Snyder was governor, we created emergency manager legislation. That was a huge usurping of local control, even more so than this maybe, because instead of a land use issue, it was, you know, a voting issue. So at that time, the Ds were arguing against it from losing a local control perspective. Fast forward, policy issue is more green related. That's being pushed. Just the reality of the politics. Ds and the governor in both houses, they're pushing that because they want that policy initiative. They're taking away local control to do it. And that's very concerning to me as somebody that's been in local administration forever. I would think it would be concerning to you. It's not new. The local control has been taken away from the localities forever. They're trying to do it with the sand and gravel operations as well. I think that some of the specifics that, as it relates to local jurisdictions, for instance, when you were discussing and debating the gravel mining ordinance, there was a lot of talk about should money be put aside to restore the site after the operation's done, and how much should those be, and how do you figure them out? And the legislation as it currently sits now, they require a phase-in of up to 10 years to remediate. You know, if all those things are going to go bad at some point, they're all going to have to be removed, whether it's a wind tower or 100 solar arrays through a farm field. Eventually, they're going to have to be removed. And they're only requiring 25% of some scrap value to be put up front. So, you know, that's not going to help us. You know, 20 years down the road when these things are all rusted and some of these companies that owners may not exist anymore, we're going to be stuck with these structures and we'll have to do something with them. If we have control, since it's our own backyard, we might treat that section a little differently than the current legislation. Site plans that are traditionally approved by our planning commission will not be, they won't be in front of our planning commission. Our setback, all our zoning rules, it won't matter. The legislation has certain setback requirements are probably half the distance of our own that we have locally. There's not even a cap of how much land within a jurisdiction could be utilized for these. So theoretically, every farm field that exists in Union Township could be turned into a bunch of solar arrays. If we want to begin to think about solar arrays like agriculture, maybe that's fine. But those are some examples of where we think the state legislation falls a bit short.
No, am I correct on these bills that this applies to only the large scale ones? So like solar, it's 50 megawatts or more. So there was size requirements that anything over went to the Michigan Public Service Commission. So a 50 megawatt would be about 300 acres in equivalent size. So that's what we're talking about, a state having control over hundreds of acres of land in this. So it's not anybody that's doing something on their house or doing something in their backyard that's just to run that for a couple, 100 or 1,000 kilowatts. This is large scale, extremely noticeable sites. And again, I'm not knocking on the green side and stuff. I just infuriated that 3 people at the Michigan Public Service Commission would have that much power to say yes or no to a siting of these projects anywhere. So it just, you know, I strongly support this resolution. And one other thing I would like is, it's well done. I just wonder if it makes sense that if we were to cite the specific Senate and House bills in this language, would that be good? That way we're citing specific on there. That would be my only suggestions to altering this. But other than that, I think it looks good.
I do too, and I think I agree with you on the bill identification, just to say we're opposed to that specifically.
Yeah, and I'll add that I'm certainly supportive of the overall goal that the state's trying to do. But yeah, when you start stepping on the toes of local municipalities like this, and we've seen that, as the manager mentioned, over and over again, you know, mining and drilling, those kinds of things we have no say over anymore. And the state can basically make whatever happen in their backyard they want to. And when one of our primary jobs as a township is to protect our property values of our neighbors, zoning. And that essentially allows the state to ignore our zoning, which has potentially adverse effects on property values for our community.
Yeah.
And so certainly I'm in support of the resolution as well, but I did want on the record that I understand why the state is maybe acting the way they are. It doesn't mean it's the right way, but I think that their end goal is correct. But you can do it in a different way.
I haven't heard a lot in the news about huge wind or solar projects that have been denied.
I think everybody seems to be focusing on the latest one would be Montcalm County, where they had some townships over there that did a big voter initiative, and they actually recalled some board members. I think anytime they're talking about not being able to cite, they're always looking at the Montcalm County situation, which is total. I mean, you can't compare what happened there to anywhere else and stuff. So I think they're using that as a scare tactic. Just because one community said no, they're all like, oh my God, everybody's, you know, we got to get control.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't agree with
So.
I do like your suggestion, Trustee Smith, on putting the actual bills, specific bills in there, so it's very clear.
Yeah.
Can I make a motion?
Absolutely.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution as presented here with the addition of adding the specific Senate and House bill numbers in the resolution and send it off immediately to the appropriate House and Senate committees and the governor's office.
Support.
Might I suggest, I'm sorry, we have a motion by Smith, support by Bills, adding in two other recipients, and that's our House rep and our Senate rep.
Yes, so duly noted.
Would you accept that amendment?
I do.
Send it to everybody. Who cares?
Blast it. Email blast that sucker.
That's right.
Thank you for preparing this, Mark.
Yeah.
Yes,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
So I will, and I know you haven't voted yet, but my intention would be to send it to the governor's office, all our local legislators that represent Union Township, and then the appropriate chairpersons of the House and Senate committees where these things are being addressed.
Because I think Rodney Nanny was talking that there's actually going to be a committee hearing on this in the Senate tomorrow at 3.
Didn't he say one of them was on the floor already for the House?
I think they're both in committees.
Oh, they're both still in.
Both are in
committees?
committees right now, but I think one is at 3 o'clock tomorrow. So.
And I'm hearing that they'll be at the floor level next week.
Provided committee. It sounds like the committees are gonna
Yeah.
push us through, but.
Well,
Our-
they should still hear from people.
So just so the public's aware, if they happen to look at the agenda and say this is not here, just clarification too. This came late after the packet was built, and so this board decided to at least discuss it. And we have a motion on the floor. Any other debate? This is a resolution, so Treasurer Rice, would you do a roll call of the board to approve the resolution with the addition of the Senate and House bill listed.
Yep.
House bills.
All right. Trustee Brown?
Support.
Trustee Bills?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Trustee Thering?
Yes.
Supervisor Milky?
Yes.
And Treasurer Rice, yes.
Thank you very much.
Passes unanimously.
That closes our new business, brings us to item 12 on the agenda, extended public comment. Extended public comment is restricted to 5 minutes regarding any issue. If you choose to address the public, please state your name and address for the record. And with that, we'll open extended public comment at 8:55 p.m.
We don't have any public in the weight room.
Let the record show that no one was attending virtually, looking privately in the room to see if anybody would like to address the public. See no one coming forward, we'll close extended public comment at 8:55 p.m. That brings us to item 13 on the agenda, manager's comments. Mr. Stuhldreher.
Only one where I can also personally thank Director Smith and her team for the work that was done on both these project plans, both these grant applications. And I was, I've known about it for a couple of weeks. I really wanted to tell you, but we thought this might be a little more fun. And in fact, when I found out about it, I was in my car and Kim called me and I'm just, I'm listening and all that and great news. And then I got back to my office and I thought something just wasn't adding up. And so I pulled out the project plans and for the water. 'Cause I'm wondering why would, what's the big deal about it's a big deal, but I had heard $1 million, something in the neighborhood. And so it just wasn't adding up, that's an email, not a phone call, right? And so when I looked and I saw, well, we'd applied for 10, and so I called her back, and yeah, it was 10. So it's quite the achievement. 10,
Yes.
That's a
almost
lot of
11
money.
$11 million of free money. It's our taxpayers' money, but it's not directly Union Township's.
Yep.
It's from the government, but it is needed and we'll put it to good use. So thank you.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Final board member comment, Trustee Brown.
Well, I'll preach on it again. Employees, employees, employees. Well, don't they pay off, right? And here at Union Township, when we get graded on doing things right, look what happens, right? 90 out of 100.
Yeah.
Sean's could barely get out of the door, I believe, but that's wonderful. Excellent.
Well, he's been spending it like a madman. Everything. Wow, we're gonna get $11 million.
Yeah, well. And if the constituents could see, what the value the employees bring, also this is a prime example of that. Prime example of what the value of the employees at Union Township can bring to the taxpayers. Great job. Great.
Thanks,
There's no
and I'll
words.
be
Great
sure
job.
to pass it on to everybody. in the
Yes.
group.
Yeah.
Please do.
Please.
They deserve it. They deserve
They
it.
all do a great job.
Wow. Up and beyond. We're very proud of them. We're very proud.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Trustee Bills.
Yeah, I'd like to echo exactly what he said, and I think that you need a great management team to facilitate those employees doing a great job. So kudos to every employee in this whole township. It's amazing, and employees are gold. And we don't have a high turnover rate. I'll say it again. We don't, because we have great people all the way around. I also want to thank the board, because I think this board works together really well, just like clockwork, and you guys are all very professional, very nice, and I never see knockdown dragouts like I saw in some of the previous boards, on previous videos. So I just think, it's pretty cool. And I want to voice one more time that I may be a Democrat, but I don't appreciate that the Democrats are trying to push this through without even any kind of hearings with the actual stakeholders.
Trustee Smith?
I agree with all the previous comments and nothing more to add.
Trustee Wright?
Yep. And we're gonna keep going on employee appreciation, not only for water and sewer, but I know we also had a member of staff who was on vacation, and every time I called to check in up front, you know, she had everything handled and went above and beyond, you know, and so it just. She had support from people here in the office, and it's just our employees here are great, you know, and the fact that they go above and beyond speaks numbers. So we appreciate you.
Thanks.
So
Trustee Therian?
Thank you, Director Smith and your staff, and Gordy Frazier and everyone for making a huge improvement on our township. Thank you. That's,
Christmas came early for the township.
sure did.
Thank you, Trustee Therian. I only want to add one thing to what was said by all the other trustees, and because I agree with all the comments, is there's a lot of appreciation, obviously, from this board for the staff, those that manage the staff, up and down, everybody involved. But I think the community would say thank you, too. I think they'd be thrilled. And I hope that the paper picks up on this story and this gets published. And if it doesn't, we might want to reach out to our local reporter and say, you need to put this in the paper. Because I think it's worth yelling from the rooftops. So that'd be the only thing I would add.
I got one more.
Sorry?
I got one more thing after you're done.
Okay, I'm almost done. And I'll come back to you. The only other thing I wanted to add was I think our next meeting will start in the dark, and that's kind of depressing to me. And with that, Trustee Bills?
Oh, I just wanted to appreciate the manager and all the department heads for what appears to be a concise and really nice budget. Thank you.
With that, our business is done. Happy to have a motion for adjournment.
Motion.
Sport. Ken.
We have a motion by Smith, support by the entire rest of the board. but I'll pick on Rice this time. Motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Adjourned at 9:02 p.m.